let's talk about Austin Hill, because there was a winner in all of this, believe it or not. Seemingly coming out of nowhere. What was he, fourth, fifth, sixth place there on the last lap? And it was like the seas parted for him. Maybe he played a role in parting those seas for himself. You can go back and be the judge for yourself here. But he does win the race. He seems to have a knack for winning these. When we say it, like all that for an Austin Hill win, it reminds me of Joey Logano sometimes in the Cup Series. Like, of course, after all that happened, it would be that 21 car emerging victorious. And, of course, Sheldon Creed, how many second place finishes is he up to now? I mean, my goodness, what does he have to do to win a race? It's reminding me a lot of Daniel Hemrick, and we'll get into Hemrick here a little bit later as well with what happened in the truck race. But, Tanner, obviously a familiar one too. As you mentioned, these guys used to be teammates. They have a history at this track. And this time it worked out for them. And in the results here, what's your reaction to Austin Hill stealing another win here, and then Sheldon Creed continuing to extend that record for most seconds without a win in this series?
Well, if we're talking about people that should have been penalized in race, Austin Hill is absolutely on the list for what he did to Jesse Love through two other cars. So essentially what Austin Hill did with I think it was about 20 to go, he got mildly bumped in turn 3 by Christian Eckes, who was clearly faster at the time. And Eckes got about 3 car lengths on him going into turn 1. Well, Austin Hill thought it'd be a good idea to work on his table pool playing skills, line his car up like a cue ball and shoot through 2 cars and wreck his own teammate. So essentially he hit Christian Eckes, who was behind Carson Kvapil, and Carson Kvapil got spun out through Eckes, through Hill. And then as Carson Kvapil's car was starting to go sideways, Jesse Love was ahead of him entering the corner and also got taken out. So, yeah, and the whole incident effectively led to Jesse Love, who moments before got on the radio saying we have a car very capable of winning this race, and he gets wiped out and his radiator busted and gets completely taken out. And I would have penalized him for 2 laps. He wouldn't have even been part of this finish, because you can't do that. Like, for as ridiculous as Sammy's move was at the end of the race, Austin Hill's was debatably worse for 7th place. So I don't feel like he earned this win in any way. I feel like the way he races in general is supremely cowardly and very, very self-motivated. He does not care about anybody else on the racetrack. And, some people like that kind of a driver. Me personally, if I was in officiating, he would probably not even be in the Xfinity Series for all the Busch League crap that he pulls. So, yeah, it's really disappointing to see a guy who kind of set everything in motion for this finish to happen get rewarded for it. And I hate that the Xfinity Series ends races this way. And I think that they could, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, I think that the Xfinity Series field could take a page out of the Truck Series playbook and maybe race a little bit cleaner and with a little bit more respect going forward, because good Lord, just the amount of cautions that we saw in the Xfinity Series race was just profoundly disappointing for a 250 lap endeavor.
Well, on that note, we'll go ahead and flip the bullet points here. I've got my outline, and we can use this as a nice transition here. We'll get into Daniel Hemrick, the race winner, in just a moment. But race ended in regulation once again. I mean, how many races are we up to now on this streak for the Truck Series? It's been quite something.
18?
Yeah, something like that. It's getting close to the all-time record, which is, I mean, if you think back to Phoenix in 23, is just borderline unfathomable. But that's the reality. Like you said, is it now, and I don't know if it's, driver specific, like some of these truckers have moved up to the Xfinity Series and brought that mentality with them, and some of these guys now are, maybe there's more veteran leadership in the truck garage. I don't know what it is, but is it is it a bigger issue now in the Xfinity Series, like you were mentioning, than it is in the trucks, which was notorious for a lack of respect for so many years?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely a symptom of the system that we have with trucks being a ladder up to Xfinity. Well, naturally, if the more aggressive drivers of the truck series inevitably move up because of talent or having a big enough wallet, they're going to bring those same issues more than likely over to the Xfinity Series when they move up. And a perfect example of this is Noah Gragson, who still doesn't have his head on straight, and he's in Cup now. So it's not something that has a complete and clear symptom that you can poke at and say, hey, we have to stop doing this so we can prevent this from happening. It's one of those things where I think it's more individualized with each driver. And I just feel like before, when drivers like Hamlin, Harvick to an extent, and granted, he had his own rough streak of his own coming into Cup and would occasionally revisit said rough streak as time would go on, but eventually he became a respectable driver and didn't invite contact as often as he did when he was younger. But, at a time where guys like Hamlin were coming up, the guys in the lower series would rough you up if you rough them up. And I just feel like nowadays the truck and Xfinity lifers are just not really willing to get the elbows out if it's going to mean compromising their finish or compromising the integrity of their car. And I feel like the conduct amongst the drivers is worse because of it. And that's a real shame, because I think we've all lamented how the Cup platform isn't as good as the Xfinity platform in terms of the style of car. So the Xfinity Series traditionally puts on a really good show at a number of different racetracks because of how hard the cars are to handle. And I just feel like if guys like Justin Allgaier, I'm only looking at the truck results, but guys like Allgaier, guys like Brandon Jones, even, God forbid, if guys like that would have a little bit more initiative to take their roles as mentors to an extent seriously, we would have less of these problems as they get up to Cup, or less problems as they exist in the series themselves. Obviously, Matt Crafton has ham-fistedly tried to go about being an enforcer in his series, and that has not worked out for him at all. And frankly, I hope it continues to not work out for him. But someone like Ben Rhodes, who has been in the series for a decade now, he is not afraid to get into these guys and not afraid to set the record straight with them. And I think that's a good thing, even if I don't like how he goes about it all the time. The problem is that the only way to really set these guys straight is to wreck them back more often than not. And they don't listen to reason. So it's not always a productive conversation you're going to have. And unfortunately, you will, in your attempts to talk these guys out of being so aggressive and stop being so ridiculous with how they conduct themselves, unfortunately, you're going to run into the Noah Gragsons of the world who just don't care. They go out there with a singular mindset of, I'm going to win at all costs. And unfortunately, a lot of times the costs come with how you race. And unfortunately, they're not really picking up the tab in terms of retribution. And they think they can just race everybody that way. And that's kind of why we're at the moment we're at. And it would just be nice to see some of these lower series guys that have a bit more tenure in their respective series dole out a little bit more punishment and try to have constructive conversations with these younger guys. And I think ultimately that would lead to a better foot forward. And maybe those conversations are happening in the truck series. So those younger drivers aren't getting into as many incidents. But I don't know. It just seems like something's broken in Xfinity that needs to be repaired. But the trucks seem to have it figured out now, and I don't know why that is. It doesn't. You would think that more young guys are coming in more aggressively, like some of the guys that just left, but that's not really the case. And I'm wondering why that is. Have you really thought about it as far as why this seems to be such an issue for Xfinity, but not so much for trucks this year?
I don't know. It's one of the great mysteries to me in our sport right now. Because I think, again, and I don't know if it's just insane luck with the timing, because I mean, goodness knows there were certainly some ruffled feathers during the Truck Series race as well. I think Corey Heim wasn't too happy. He had another dominant truck and was able to rebound back up to a 6th place finish. But we had Ty Majeski and where did Caden Honeycutt end up here?
He was wrecked, so he wasn't coming back.
That was really unfortunate, because he could have won the race as well. That would have been a great story for him. But
I felt that was incidental contact, if anything.
Sure.
But
yeah, I didn't think. Yeah,
it was unfortunate.
yeah, certainly. Yeah, but again, even when it happens in trucks, I don't feel like it's been more incidental, like you were saying, or it's not as blatant, or we're not seeing it on the last lap with guys with 5 to go or less, whatever would trigger an overtime restart. I don't know. I mean, you would have to think that at some point it's going to rear its ugly head again, and somebody's going to drive over their head, and we're going to have this streak come to an end here. But I mean, this is a series that is back up to 25 races this year, but you're talking 18, 19, 20 races. You're almost at a full calendar year, full Truck Series season since we went into overtime, which for this series again is just borderline unfathomable. Even in Cup last year, I feel like I saw graphics on NBC last year. This is a record for most overtime finishes in a single season in 2024 in the Cup Series. And again, maybe that's due to the drivers of Xfinity and trucks from recent years now being up in the Cup Series and the driving standards being brought with them, for better or worse. I don't know, but I do agree that it does somehow, even though, and I'd never have wanted to fully place trucks as a stage as a rung on the development ladder, because I do feel you see it in Xfinity as well with Allgaier, and Allmendinger's kind of been on the seesaw the last couple of years. He's back in Cup now, but he spent a couple of years full time in Xfinity. You see it there with those guys. Elliott Sadler, another one that went back there. But trucks, I felt used to be a place for former Cup guys or lifers who never got a Cup opportunity, veterans of the sport. And it's become more developmental. But I don't know. I think that for a series that is technically third on the ladder as opposed to number 2 in Xfinity, to be able to do this better than them, and even to an extent, I think better than the Cup guys, to be fair. It's just, I'm not going to complain. But it does leave you scratching your head. How, if these guys can figure it out, how can the Xfinity and Cup drivers not do the same?
I wish I had an answer. I really do.
Yeah. Well, we'll see we'll keep monitoring the streak here, see how long it goes.